In the 1970s, as American drivers waited in gas lines, Ford's answer to the oil crisis was speed, rushing the Pinto from sketchpad to showroom in just 25 months. But hidden beneath its compact frame, a critical design decision placed its fuel tank inches from disaster. Before long, fiery rear-end crashes and a secret cost calculation would ignite a scandal that changed public trust in corporate America. How did a car built for survival spark one of the most infamous safety controversies in history? By the late 1960s, the American auto market was under siege. Japanese imports, led by models like the Toyota Corolla and Datsun 510, were gaining ground fast, offering compact efficiency at a price Detroit struggled to match. Ford's leadership, watching sales of smaller, fuel-thrifty cars soar, saw a threat that demanded urgent action. The board set an ambitious target: design, engineer, and launch a new subcompact in just 25 months, nearly half the time of a typical Ford project. Every week shaved from the schedule mattered. The new car had to weigh less than 2,000 pounds and cost under $2,000 at the dealership, or it would not stand a chance against the imports flooding American roads. As the 1970s began, another crisis loomed. Fuel shortages swept the country, sending drivers into long lines at gas stations and making small, economical cars more attractive than ever. The pressure inside Ford's headquarters was relentless. Executives, led by Lee Iacocca, demanded speed above all else. No delays, no overruns, no features that would add unnecessary cost or weight. For engineers and designers, that meant tough choices. The drive to beat foreign competition and meet the urgent demands of the oil crisis became the overriding mission, shaping every decision that followed. Inside Ford's engineering labs, concern grew over one critical detail. The Pinto's fuel tank sat just inches behind the rear axle, pressed between the axle housing and the thin rear bumper. In a rear-end collision, the differential's bolts, 4 sharp steel studs, were positioned like spikes aimed directly at the tank's fragile metal shell. Even at moderate speeds, crash tests showed these bolts could punch through the tank wall, causing gasoline to gush out in seconds. The filler neck, meant to guide fuel safely into the tank, often tore loose on impact, spilling even more gasoline beneath the car. Engineers documented how in some tests, nearly the entire contents of the tank drained in less than a minute. Any spark, whether from scraping metal or electrical shorts, could ignite the fuel, turning a survivable accident into a deadly fire. The danger was not just theoretical. Repeated crash simulations confirmed the risk, and some engineers pressed for simple fixes. One proposed solution, a plastic shield between the tank and the bolts, cost about $1 per car and weighed just a pound. Others suggested nylon bladders or relocating the tank above the axle, as was done in other Ford models. Each time, these ideas ran into the same barrier: the relentless push to save time, weight, and cost. The physical reality of the design left a vulnerability that would soon have real consequences. In September 1977, the story broke wide open. Mother Jones magazine published a leaked Ford document that would become infamous, the Pinto Cost-Benefit Memo. Inside, Ford's analysts had tallied the price of making the Pinto safer against the projected costs of lawsuits, injuries, and deaths. The numbers were cold and precise. Ford estimated that each life lost in a Pinto fire would cost the company $200,000 in settlements, while each serious injury would cost $67,000. The cost to recall and fix the cars was far higher, over $100 million. The memo concluded that paying legal claims would be cheaper than correcting the design for all vehicles on the road. The public reaction was immediate and fierce. Newspapers ran headlines about Ford putting a dollar value on human life. Investigative reporters pressed executives for answers. The memo's stark calculation, dollars versus lives, became a national scandal, sparking outrage not just among safety advocates, but across the country. What had been a private corporate calculation now stood as a symbol of callous decision-making, and the Pinto's fate shifted from engineering controversy to public reckoning. Juries and regulators began to weigh in. In February 1978, a California court handed down a $125 million punitive verdict against Ford in the Grimshaw versus Ford Motor Company case, one of the largest product liability awards in U.S. history. Although the amount was later reduced on appeal, the message was clear. The court saw Ford's decisions as reckless. By June of that year, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration had completed its own investigation. Their tests showed that the Pinto's fuel tank could rupture and ignite in rear-end collisions at speeds as low as 30 to 35 miles per hour. Under mounting legal and regulatory pressure, Ford announced a recall of 1.5 million Pintos and 30,000 Mercury Bobcats, the largest automotive recall to that point. The legal fallout did not end there. In Indiana, prosecutors brought criminal charges against Ford, accusing the company of reckless homicide after 3 teenage girls died in a Pinto fire. The trial made headlines across the country, but the jury acquitted Ford, finding the evidence insufficient for a criminal conviction. Still, the damage to Ford's reputation was lasting. Market surveys showed a sharp decline in public trust, and the Pinto's name became synonymous with corporate indifference to safety. The fallout reached beyond the courtroom, forcing the entire auto industry to reckon with new standards for accountability and public responsibility. Today, federal law requires every new car to meet strict rear impact fuel system standards, but corporate shortcuts still happen. The cost of safety remains a choice, one that shapes every drive.